Welcome, everyone. It's good to have you join us for this orientation. Um, for the most part, you'll see kind of faculty listed with a doctor, not everybody, but we'll go through and introduce the purpose of today is be able to kind of go through what to expect in the program. We've covered a few of these things in your group interviews, but to be able to kind of go through an orientation to both the start of the semester as well as preparation for your 3 years in your program. And so you'll see on the screen, hopefully, the QR code. These slides will be available as well as the recording available to review in the future on the orientation page. And so we'll make sure everyone gets added to the orientation page. You'll see that through the slides. And that's where we communicate a lot of these different elements to this. So, so welcome to the calm before the storm, the Saturday before the start of the semester. Um, I hope that you're as excited as our faculty are to welcome you and to interact together. So let me kind of get started and pump through here. You'll see you'll see the QR code here. You'll see it again at the end if for some reason you weren't able to catch it. So our schedule for today, we're going to open with Dr. Cassida and devotion, and then we'll introduce the different faculty and staff, and then we kind of go through some program information and some updates. So the updates might all just be new for you, but they're updates as some of our returning students come on. So I'm going to mute everybody so I don't get feedback, and we'll progress into the devotional.
I guess that's me. Hey, good
Yep.
morning, everyone. My name is Matt Cassida, and I was just Dr. Scott asked me to kind of introduce our theme for this year. So if you'll go to the next slide, our theme for this year is rootin' and fruitin'. Somewhere in the back of my mind, the elementary boy would add another word that would rhyme with that would be on Looney Tunes, but we will just allude to that this morning. Um, Really, our hope for this year is that this is a time of formation for all of us. That includes even us as faculty. And so, to kind of orient us, I want to ask Seth to go to the next slide. I want to ask you, what is the good life? Maybe take a minute and consider what is your vision of the good life. Maybe it's something like this, where you just get to luxuriate all the time, and you look out over a beautiful horizon and have an infinity pool and poolside service. It's an interesting idea to think about this, because I think so often when we think about a good life, at least for me, it looks something like this. And we see this to its extremes. If you've seen that great theological treatise, Wally, we see what this looks like if it plays out to its full fruition. What it plays out to is people being hovered around on carts, unable to do things for themselves because robots have conditioned them to have everything done for them. And it's a life of numbing pleasure and loss of capacity. And so when we think about rooting, I want us to actually think about discipline. Seth, if you'll go to the next slide. I want to differentiate discipline from punishment. Discipline, when I, as a father, discipline my children, it's about their formation. It's about me helping them grow into the kind of people that are responsible and are caring and are empathetic and take seriously the things that God has called them to. So discipline is about formation. Punishment is about behavior modification. If I'm only interested in having them behave a certain way, I don't really have any thought at all about who they're becoming. I just want to nip it in the bud and have them stop being the way that they're being right now. This summer, my family moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, which is where I'm originally from. And I took up an old hobby, which I've not done in 15 years, which is basketball. I've not played real basketball in 15 years. And I will tell you, it's been rough. My knees have been endlessly sore. My jump shot is about as ugly as you can imagine. I'm one of the worst players on the floor most Wednesday and Friday morning. And the first month of playing, it was really difficult to make it to the end just because I didn't have the cardio conditioning for it. Um, but the longer I play, the more my capacity is increasing to be the kind of person who can run up and down the court and still miss a lot of shots, but I can at least rebound and get some assists. Because I'm disciplining myself. I'm disciplining my body. And we see this in the ways that trees grow as well. We know that that from Hebrews, God says that God disciplines those that He loves. You will this year experience adversity. You will experience, and adversity doesn't necessarily mean that that is automatically God's discipline, but God will use and can use the adversity you face to grow your roots deeper into the soil. There was an interesting experiment done out in the desert of New Mexico in the, I think in the 70s or 80s. And they're asking the question, what would it take for humans to be able to inhabit another planet? And so they created this basically a biodome that would replicate another planet. And they had all kinds of professions of people in this dome. They had livestock, they had plants, they had really anything you can imagine to try to inhabit a different planet and to practice that. You don't have to have watched many cult documentaries to know that this didn't end up well in the end. But one of the first things that started showing that maybe there's some issues here was the trees quickly grew tall. Um, but within a few months of them growing tall, they began to topple over. And the reason for this is because the roots had not dug into the soil enough to hold the height that they were reaching. And what was the theory was because that there was no wind. Trees need wind and adversity to have to grow their roots down deep. And so this year, part of you rooting and fruiting will be that you will face adversity. We will ask you to look at maybe hard and difficult parts of your life and story. There will be new things that come up this year that are stressful and difficult. Adding a master's counseling program is in and of itself adversity. Um, Most of your faculty are great. Having me in the classroom, that might be some adversity for you. Um, and I would invite you, as we are thinking about rooting and fruiting, I would invite you to consider in what ways is this forming me? In what ways is the adversity that I'm facing inviting me to have my roots be planted deeper um, and yet grow deeper alongside the stream. And it's that rooting that allows us to bear fruit. I'm always struck by in the psalm that we're pulling from is that it yields its fruit in season. Um, I'm about to experience winter for the first time in 16 years. I think that I'll get to experience fall first, but I've not really experienced winter in 16 years because I've been living in Orlando, Florida. Um, I could try as hard. We have a pear tree in our backyard. I could go back there and yell at it as much as I want to this winter to drop some pears for me, and it's not going to happen. And so often we don't know the seasons of our life in which God is going to bear fruit. And so you and I, though, get to be part of participating in our formation by asking that question of what is the good life? Because my definition of the good life will shape my affections, and my affections will shape the trajectory of how I'm spending my time and orienting myself. And so, as we're considering rooting and fruiting, I would invite you this semester to consider um, what is my vision of the good life, and then how is that leading to my formation? How is that leading to the way that my roots sink into the soil? And then, therefore, how does that lead to the fruit that I'm bearing? Looking forward to this year with you. Welcome to the program.
Good, thank you, Matt. I mean, tooting still fits, right? If we use it as like a proclamation, right? Rooting, fruiting, tooting. We're proclaiming. Uh, yeah, so, it makes me think of Fruit Stripes gum. But all right, well, welcome. our faculty. So I'm Dr. Seth Scott. I'm the assistant dean and director of the School of Counseling, assistant dean of the seminary and School of Counseling, director of the School of Counseling. We have two programs. We have a master's in clinical counseling that all of you are entering, and then we have a PhD in counselor education supervision. We're in the process of developing a MA in school counseling program as well. You see here kind of different images of my summer, and so I spend every summer at camp at a youth camp for a week with 13 to 16-year-olds acting as a cabin leader. And so this past summer's theme was Top Gun. And so I had to shave for the mustache and buy all of the apparel to be all in. So that was kind of a fun summer event. And see my kids on either side of me. My son Caleb is a senior in high school. And I've been trying to keep up with him working out this summer. And then my daughter Susie is a sophomore at Covenant College in Georgia. She's an RA this year, so they're both kind of a joy to be with. Although we don't see Susie except for holidays now, and we see Caleb very little as a senior in high school, working at Publix way past my bedtime. So they're fun though. You see our three cats. We have two indoor cats that actually are ours, and then the orange cat just shows up. I don't know where he's from or where he lives, but he shows up regularly for food, and my wife feeds him, so shows up even more regularly. My wife Jen is a potter, and so we spend most weekends at craft markets, farmers markets, fairs selling pottery. And so my job is to carry all of the things, to drive the large vehicles of all of our product, and then try to upsell people using psychology. That's kind of my role. And then schmooze people. My wife would be content just hanging out in the studio, not interacting with people, and just making things. That got out of hand as we had boxes and stacks of pottery. And so she says, because I make her sell it, it's my responsibility to manage the business side of that. So that's kind of what our life looks like. Some of my areas of responsibility and research, as I said, I'm the director of the program. I'm our KCREP liaison. I'm preparing for a KCREP site visit for our PhD program in a few weeks. Do research in biblical worldview immersion, in professional identity development, looking at addiction and marriage and family. And I work in clinical practice with adolescents, young adults, couples, and addiction, men and addiction. And so those kind of my areas of enjoyment and fun. And then when there's time, I'm working on remodeling a house, which has been kind of a semi-joyful product and project. This afternoon, I'm painting the final two bedrooms to hopefully stop having construction zone areas. We'll see if I can get it done, but I'm done painting ceilings, which I'm very happy about. But that's kind of what we do and how things go. And I'll pass it off to Dr. Matthew.
Good morning to you all. Great to have you here this year. We've been praying for you and excited for this next semester and the next years with you. And yeah, my name is Dr. Matthew. I have been a part of CIU for now 3 years, going into my fourth year, but I've been in higher education for over 25 years and excited to be part of this process with you. As you can see by my pictures, I am the husband of one wife, the father of four, and I always try to keep those numbers always correct, and one dog. And Petey has joined our family a few years ago. I got my oldest son is a sophomore at CIU, and he's in an undergrad program in education, going into his second year. My other son, Zachary, we just dropped him off last Friday at Clemson for his freshman year. And I'm not crying, you're crying. It was totally easy. I had no emotional response whatsoever. But that was a new reality. So I am left home now with my wonderful wife and my two beautiful daughters, Ainsley, who is a junior in high school, and Olivia, who's entering her freshman year of high school. So it's me and three wonderful women at home. Petey and I will be in the backyard if you need us. So all that to say, I got a great family. And yeah, similar, these are a lot of our summer activities. You can see my son is a big baseball fan, so he went to minor league game with my wife this summer. I got to take my son to a World Cup game in Atlanta. That was amazing. And my daughters were left out on the front lawn apparently all summer. So I took that picture of them. But yeah, I enjoy particular areas of research in multicultural counseling, sexuality counseling. And like all of us, we're all therapists as well. And so we have our own private practice. Many of us are supervisors, so we have the chance of uh, engaging and preparing the next generation of therapists. And so I'm just excited for the opportunity to get to know you both within the context of the classroom and as you develop as disciples for his kingdom. Looking forward to it.
Hello, and welcome. We're very excited that you're here and very excited that you're going to be a part of this program. My name is Dr. Herzl, and I teach in the beginning of the master's program and often at the end of the master's program. So I get to see you at both ends of the situation, which is really pretty fun. That I'll talk about my family in a little bit. I just wanted to, if you'll look at the picture of the angel, that's there to remind me to talk to you about my that I am a lover of the arts. Along with being a professor and a clinical counselor, I'm also a licensed professional music therapist. And that particular picture just reminds me that's a sculpture that's done by the Italian house Fontanini, and they have a master sculptor. And I teach expressive arts in therapy as one of the possible electives, and I love being able to teach that. I love creativity and artistry because it comes from our Lord. And we do a lot of expressive work in that class, experiential. And one of the things that we do is emphasize how the expressive arts are often very effectively used with neurodivergent people. I actually worked with people with autism and developmental disorders for 7 years during part of my life. And obviously, I learned a lot about how to work with people in those populations, and it was wonderful. It was just absolutely wonderful. So, my husband and I have 5 grown children, and that's a picture of some of them. And then we have 5 grandchildren, and they're all girls, and there's a couple of pictures of them, and they're just all of those people are the delights of my life. And we get together a lot because we're all in the same area. In fact, this afternoon, we're getting all together, all of us, to celebrate one of the grand girls' birthdays. And then there's also a picture of our 3 cats who were found as feral cats, and they were introduced to us, and now they're just very much a part of our lives, and they kind of run the show, you know, how cats and dogs are. And then in the middle there is my hotshot car. And that is also, that's my dream car. And that's all I'll say about it. So again, welcome. We're just so pleased that you're going to be a part of this program. And I love what Dr. Cassada said about how, and he was talking about the trees needing adversity to be able to be fully, deeply rooted. And that's so much a part of what we're going to help you. We're going to walk with you through this and how you watch you grow and blossom. It's really exciting. So again, thanks for being here. And I'm excited about where we're going together.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Jackie Perry. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, currently in Colorado, moving my son and his wife here for the weekend. Let's see. I am married to my college sweetheart. There he is, John. We are empty nesters at this point in our life. All 3 of our adult children are married, and we have 3 beautiful little grandchildren, a little girl, and then another little girl came this summer from our New York couple, our son Alex and Liz, and then another boy, our first boy. So we have 3 grandchildren. and a sweet dog. I'm not a cat person. Sorry, Seth and Karen. I'm more of a dog girl. And our puppy, Cammy, is named after Cameron Indoor Stadium because we are big Blue Devil fans, even though they let us down last year big time. I teach in the master's program and the PhD program starting this fall. Kind of like Karen, I'll see you at the beginning of your time in the program and towards the end as I have prac students and internship students. I also teach an elective called Internal Family Systems, which is a modality that's become quite popular in the field, as well as assessing and treating children and teenagers. I would say an area of interest of mine right now in terms of speaking is after many decades in the field and supervising as a clinician, both in North Carolina and now South Carolina, I just want students and supervisees to understand how much of this involves our bodies and it wears our bodies down. It's hard to believe that listening could actually affect you physically and emotionally and spiritually, but it does. And so this idea of becoming aware of what's happening internally and how it affects the counseling relationship is an area of great interest of mine and where I am really enjoying reading and presenting these days. Like everyone else, I'm super happy to welcome you all in the program and look forward to meeting you all, both residential students as well as online.
Well, good morning. Like everybody else, welcome to the program. Glad to have you. We have been praying for you through the interview process and leading up to today's orientation and then throughout the semester. The faculty do pray for you and ask for God's blessing upon you. So I'm Dr. Steve Stuhlreier, live in Cincinnati, Ohio. And been here most of my life, married with 3 kids. Unlike Dr. Perry, we're not empty nesters. In fact, I think we have the reverse happening. All my kids live with us, and my niece moved in with us too, and we're trying to get them out of the house. But they keep coming, and once they leave, then my mother-in-law will probably move in with us too. So it's a revolving door. What you see is on the screen is really main pictures of my favorite people on the planet. Love the faculty, but my favorite people on the planet are my family. My wife and I just celebrated 26 years of marriage, and we have 3 kids. Hannah is 25 and is an undergraduate at CIU on the online classes, graduates in December, and then next fall we'll start at the seminary in a Master's of Divinity program. And my son, Jonah, is 22, and college is just not what he wants to do. He's going to do get some training around network engineering and being an electrician, and you see him down on the bottom right. He's enormously gifted around doing construction, the hands-on kinds of things, which is going to help with our tree that just fell down in our backyard, a 50-foot tree that bounced off our roof last week. So we have to cut up a large tree. So Jonah will be happy to do that. And my youngest, Rachel, is an undergraduate at CIU, also online studying psychology. So in her favor is she has somebody else in the house that might know a little bit about psychology that she can go to. So that's nice. So we like to travel. The pictures up on the top are me and my family in North Carolina I believe that's on top of Grandfather Mountain, if you're familiar with North Carolina, or it might be top of Blowing Rock. So those are good pictures. We enjoyed North Carolina, going down there in about a month. And then in summer 24, my daughters and I had a chance to travel to Israel with a church group. And so you see us, my 2 daughters, in front of the Wailing Wall, Western Wall on the left, and then in the temple, the Dome on the Rock, which is very almost ominous, but very worthy trip to get there and to walk through a bunch of armed guards to get to this place. It was beautiful building. It was just a great time. So we love to travel. So that's my family. My wife is multi-talented. One of the things she loves to do is to grow her own vegetable and herbs, and from that, we she's been brilliant in making many of our own items: ketchup, spaghetti sauce, shampoo, soaps, all sorts of things. That's just amazing that what she does. And so after I get done with this, I go home and help make tomato paste and shampoo with her. Um, so that's good. And we do make our kids get involved. So areas of interest, I teach at this point, this cycle, I'm really only scheduled to teach one course in the master's program, and that's psychopathology. So, and that's taught next semester in the spring. I will often teach the best class in the whole program, which is the master's level research class. I enjoy that a lot, and I think many of you are probably taking that right out of the gate with now Dr. Rochelle Kennedy, recently one of our doc students who recently completed their dissertation. That'll be good. I primarily teach in the doctoral program and serve as the program director for the PhD program. And in the doctoral program, not surprisingly, I teach in mostly the quantitative research methods sequence of classes and oversee the dissertation process as well. So that's a lot of fun. Areas of interest of mine is really one of the things I just completed a paper on, and I've sent it to some friends to review kind of the theology around this, and that's the development of the theological perspective of the development of compulsive sexual behaviors. So that's out to a couple people who I trust their theological lens a lot, and they're reviewing that at this point. And I also have a practice in which I primarily work with men, adult men, Christian men mostly, not all of them, who live with compulsive sexual behaviors like pornography addiction or other kinds of compulsive behaviors, and also working with a couple couples, so husband and wife, and helping them through some marital relationship issues that have been impacted by pornography use. And it's a blast to watch them recover from that and get back on track with their life, with the men and the couples. And I, like the rest of the faculty, really enjoy watching you grow from where you're at now through the program, and to watch the changes that you will be making and the questions you'll ask. We just look forward to it. I look forward to it, and please reach out if there's anything I can do for you.
Everyone. I'm Dr. Shanika Jones-Cotton. I'm excited to meet all of you today. Some of your faces look familiar from interviews, but I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is my first year at CIU, first full year. I started July of last year. So excited to start the second year at CIU. This is my 14th start in academia, though, in counselor education. But super excited to be a part of the process this morning, get to know you better. This is my family. So I have three children, two daughters, Madison and Montana, and a son, Evan. They're all 2 years apart. That's kind of how I keep track of their ages. Um, they're all unique and special in their own way. And my husband is Matthew, and he's an auditor. So he keeps everything in order at home for us. But yeah, so this is a new family for me. I was a single mom for 12 years. Woke up last year after I was married to two brand new daughters, and so a new family. And so excited about this new start for us. A little bit about my background. I am a licensed school counselor in North Carolina, and I also have my LPC in South Carolina, LCMHC in North Carolina. So my heart has always been for children, and that's where I got started with this counseling thing. And then I have slowly moved into working with more adults in the area of trauma. So my private practice is primarily for personal injury clients. So they have active, open legal cases, and I work with them through the trauma, whatever led them to need legal assistance. That's what I work with them on. About 95% of my clients have experienced traumatic car accidents, and so I work closely with them. That's been very interesting for me. It's my third year in practice, so still fairly new to that too. A lot of new things going on at one time for me. So that's a little bit about me as far as research interest. I am very interested in multiculturalism. My doctoral studies were, or doctoral research was around social justice advocacy and really taking a look at belief in a just world and multiculturalism and how all of it intersects together and really impacts the way that we counsel and the way that we show up for others. And as far as teaching, you may have the opportunity to have me as an instructor in, of course, multicultural as a course, as well as some of the clinical courses. So whether that's your practicum or internship. I'm also teaching trauma in the spring. And so eventually we'll get to certainly cross paths, and I'll be certainly looking forward to that. So nice to meet all of you. Really excited about your journey. I'm truly biased when it comes to counseling. I believe it's the best profession on the planet. As Dr. Perry said, it does start to weigh on you after some time, so we have to really take care of ourselves. But I believe that it's so close to the heart of God, and we get an opportunity to be the hands and feet of Jesus in all that we do and all the interactions that we have with our clients. And so excited that you are ready and here to take this journey together. Nice to meet all of you.
Hello, this has been fun. I love hearing about my colleagues' interests. Sometimes I forget how cool the things are that all of your professors do. And so I know that sometimes you can be like, okay, we've been through a lot of different things, but you have access to people with so many different areas of interest and expertise. So it's just really fun to hear. Like yesterday, I'm in session. I had a whole conversation with a client on she is of Indian descent and on the generational differences and how her parents expected her to do arranged marriage. And she was like, no. And it was this whole traumatic time period. I'm like, man, I really I should have phoned a friend because what a great consult that would have been. So you guys have awesome people informing your education. You see, I do director of training and internship for our master's students, so I'll be seeing a lot of you guys in practicum and internship when you're ready for that, but you don't have to worry about that yet. You are just doing your first year, so no need to panic there. You see my husband there, you see a couple of my different families. I know it's hard to tell them apart, so I understand, but love spending time with them. Gosh, I'm trying to make this quick. So I'm like, whew, we've been going a minute. Areas of interest, I refuse to choose one. I know you're supposed to pick a lane, and I just couldn't do it. So you'll see, like, some of my research is spiritual abuse, some of it is narcissism. That's where I started. And sometimes I bounce back to personality disorders because it's so interesting. Some of it has been in like inpatient psychiatric, the treatment of serious mental illness, because I did a lot of inpatient psychiatric. Um, so a little all over the place there, which is probably why I end up a little all over the place. But that's what practicum and internship are. You guys are going to be all over the place. So again, it's really beneficial to have faculty to walk you through it. And then I did go to seminary, so you'll see me teaching like the Applied Biblical Foundations class, or again, I refuse to choose a lane. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a licensed professional counselor, so I do a lot of couples work. I don't do as much family work, mostly because I don't see children. So if you are like, man, I really want to see kids, you have Dr. Jones Cotton, Dr. Perry, you have people to help you with that. It's so beautiful. So that's a little bit about me. You won't remember all this. That's okay. We'll get to know each other in class. It'll be great.
Hey, good morning again, everyone. I'm Matt Cassida. I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. I grew up here, moved to Orlando in 2010 to get a master's degree. I met my wife, Ryan, while in Orlando. When we were in Orlando, we had a private practice that we ran and oversaw together. Ryan and I have two sons. Our older son is Sam. Our younger son is Charlie. We are very much a basketball house right now, as Sam is especially super into basketball. One little fun thing is that this summer he and I have started a podcast. He went looking for a basketball podcast for kids and didn't find one that exists. So he and I have been doing some little YouTube podcast kind of thing. So that's been fun. I am currently on a sabbatical from counseling. I had been in private practice since 2012, and in the midst of also moving, I'm just taking some time from that. I work a lot with teens and neurodiverse populations. In fact, I'll be teaching a neurodiverse counseling class in the spring that will be a new elective, and I'm looking forward to that. Welcome to the program.
Last but not least, it's good to meet all you guys. So my name is Professor, almost Doctor, hopefully by the end of this fall semester, Nicole Kinney, and I am new to the faculty as of January, but I've been at CIU since 2020. I started in the same spot as you. I was in the master's program, and then I went straight into the new doctoral program, and will be planning to be in the first graduating class. So very excited about that. I am married. You'll see my husband there in the center. We have 2 dogs and 5 cats. So we're both dog and cat people. No kids as of yet, but we have our hands full as it is anyway. So we love to travel. You can see a picture of us in the bottom right. We went to Europe this summer and had a great time. And then my family there on the left is my parents love to go cruising, and so sometimes they have us join them. And so we went to Hawaii, and that was really fun. And I've lived overseas a couple of times in my life, so I love travel and learning about different cultures. So I get the pleasure of teaching the Foundations of Clinical Mental Health Counseling course, which many of you are probably registered for this fall. I'm teaching both the residential and the online section, and so we'll get to know each other pretty well. My areas of interest are, so my research is also in spiritual abuse. Dr. Klemishevich mentioned that. So really wanting to learn more about how people can be harmed by religious institutions and how we can help them heal from it, to bring them back to a healthy relationship with the Lord. And I'm also teaching a smattering of different classes. So I have the foundations class, I'm teaching career counseling, I'm teaching the assessments course, I've taught practicum. So I'm kind of all over the map. So you may see me at different times, but I'm really excited to get to know all of you.
All right. Well, I went too far. So we have a couple adjuncts too for options of classes. So doctors Pruitt and Johnson teach electives for us. Dr. Pruitt teaches mostly in the area of mission care and missionary intervention. Dr. Johnson now teaches in the undergrad, used to lead our addictions program, but he is a previous president of the Albert Ellis Institute in New York City and is kind of through and through REBT guy. So he's a good resource for us. And then newly minted Dr. Kennedy is going to be teaching the research class in the online section this fall. So you'll get an opportunity if you're taking that class with her. And then in person, we have Lanny Ott, who'll be a doctor by the end of the fall. She's covering some of the counseling techniques class in person. So if you're a residential student, she's also the director of our Terrace Counseling Center. So one of the exciting things that we're launching, it's kind of a stuttered launch because we're waiting on construction. But as a program, we've had a counseling training center on campus where we provide counseling to students, both high school, middle school, and high school students at Ben Lippen, as well as undergrad students at Columbia International University. And we're expanding that now to be a community-focused counseling center called the Terrace. And so we will have a off-site counseling center sometime when the construction is done, probably December or January, called the Terrace Counseling Center. Lanny is our director of that center. But we also have a site on campus. And so when you get to the practicum and internship process, you have an opportunity to engage in clinical practice from a biblical worldview, and engaging kind of a range of things, engaging students at CIU or engaging the community. And so that's kind of an exciting thing. Taejun Kim is a PhD student at University of South Carolina. He'll be teaching our residential research course this fall. And then Amy Young is a PhD student in the cohort right behind Professor Kinney and Professor Ott. And she's going to be teaching, I think, addictions next summer, and will be TAing in a couple of different techniques courses. So you'll have interaction with her. April Patton, actually, who I forgot to put on here, will also be assisting in a couple courses. But so our program is within the seminary and school, or the Seminary and School of Counseling, the SSC. And so we are kind of under the umbrella of the seminary with our dean, David Croto, kind of overseeing our program model. And so you'll kind of feel some of that as we go through the program, because we believe that the only true understanding of the world is how God sees it. And so we seek to kind of bring everything under the authority of Scripture in a biblical worldview, which we'll look at in a minute. So we appreciate being in partnership with the seminary. The different people, you may get emails or interaction with some of these people, our Associate Dean, Dr. Rabin, or our admins, Kelly LeGrand, Regina, or Hope. They kind of keep the ship afloat and running smoothly. They're our go-to people. So if you're ever on campus and have questions, those are the people to interact with actually on the first floor. All right, so a quick overview of our program. Hopefully you're somewhat familiar with this, because this is why you picked our program. But while we call it the MA in Clinical Counseling, the CACREP designation of our program is actually Clinical Mental Health Counseling. So it's a CMHC program. And the mission of CIU that we are under is to educate people from a biblical worldview to impact the nations with the message of Christ. That's ultimately our goal as part of the Great Commission. And our history at CIU is grounded in these core values, which if you're ever on campus, you'll be on campus for residency. Maybe we'll make a treasure hunt to see if you can find all the rocks, but there's giant rocks on campus with these. And these core values practically guide how we think about our content and how we engage even with you as students. So the kind of foundational piece is the authority of Scripture, which means that Scripture has authority over our lives. And so we believe that Scripture is truth, and that it is an objective truth, that we are in the process of developing an accurate reading and understanding of it as fallen people, but that we put ourselves under that authority. And so that provides us an opportunity of saying what is real and what is true. That then is informed by a spirit-filled life. So if you are a follower of Christ, you receive the Holy Spirit as that process, and the Holy Spirit hopefully is making us grow in likeness to Christ. And even as our theme, that will root us and ground us in the gospel and demonstrate the presence of the Spirit in us because it shows his fruit, right? So the goal is to show less and less of our fruit as fallen, broken people, and to show more and more of the presence of the Spirit in us as his fruit is demonstrated, the fruit of the Spirit. And somewhat unfortunately, right, the fruit of the Spirit is singular. And so when you go through all those things like gentleness, self-control, joy, those actually are packaged together. And so when the Spirit is in us, those all actually should be evidenced as the fruit of his presence. We don't get to say, like, all right, I'll pick this fruit. I only want apples on my fruit of the Spirit tree. It doesn't work that way. Because the function of being rooted and grounded in Christ, so that we demonstrate the fruit of the Spirit, is so that we can proclaim the gospel, is so that people can observe and interact with us in world evangelization, because the message of the gospel is salvation to those who are perishing. And as 2 Corinthians reminds us, that our primary role is ambassadors of reconciliation. We have the opportunity to bring others into the united kingdom of God. And so throughout the history of CIU, we're a little over 100 years old. It's kind of it was initially, when I first got here, proclaimed as a positive thing. I don't know that it's a great marketing piece, but they say we're much better known around the world than we are even in Colombia. So we've sent thousands of missionaries out as a university over our 100+ year history to proclaim Christ. And really, it's an interesting piece. If you interact, you can do the Kevin Bacon game with CIU graduates in 2 degrees of separation, right? So asking around, you will quickly find a CIU graduate somewhere in the world, because of our emphasis on world evangelization. We ground that in prayer and faith as the basis of our focus and framework. And then the evangelical unity piece allows us to be an intentionally interdenominational university. So a lot of schools, especially seminaries, tend to be kind of one denomination. So you have a lot of Southern Baptist seminaries, you have Assemblies of God, you have all these different schools. We were founded as an intentionally interdenominational school focused on the primary things of the gospel, like the authority of scripture and spirit-filled life, to allow us to be unified in those primary things, which makes it kind of fun, that we get to interact with other faculty from different theological backgrounds, all grounded in the gospel. But we have faculty that are Presbyterian, we have faculty that are Anglican, that are Methodist, that are evangelical free. We have a huge range of faculty, and that allows us to stay focused on those things that truly matter and allow us to dialogue and learn and grow in a likeness to Christ. So those are our core values. Our program for the for the School of Counseling has the mission of cultivating kingdom impact by making disciples who counsel, train, and teach so that we can bring Christ-like healing and professional excellence to the nations from a biblical worldview. And so as you go through this program, know that our primary focus for you is to grow in Christ likeness as his disciple to make kingdom impact. Be like, oh yeah, that sounds great. It is a nice slogan, but it also actually has practical implications. So as we work with you, part of this program, especially in the first year, is going to be about learning about yourself and growing in understanding of yourself and awareness and insight. Part of that process is that discipleship model, so that we want you to know that we care about you as people made in the image of God, because it's not just about making you a counselor. We want to cultivate kingdom impact in informing your role as a disciple with the skill of counseling. And so as we work with you, we're coming alongside you as fellow disciples to ensure that the purpose of your growth and development is beyond the skills vocationally or occupationally of counselor. But your lifelong calling is as a disciple, because we are operating of a different kingdom. And so that's kind of the framework. And you'll hear us say this regularly throughout the program. The mission of our MA degree is to offer professional training in clinical mental health counseling within a biblical worldview in order to provide Christ-like therapeutic relationships for healing and growth. The biblical worldview piece, again, you'll hear this regularly throughout the program. No one really has a biblical worldview. We're all in the process of developing a biblical worldview. We all are informed by the world around us. And as Romans 12:2 says, we're being conformed to the image of this world. And so we're constantly having to kind of make our understanding of scripture subservient to the power of the Spirit and the community around us, to cultivate that kingdom impact. So our program is intended to address orthodoxy, right belief in your head through our academic content. It's intended to engage your heart in orthopathy and right affections through personal and spiritual development and character building, and then to develop and cultivate orthopraxy, or right behavior, in the skills of practice. And throughout your program, you'll kind of hear and see and feel this three-part orthos of trying to engage right belief, right affection, and right action in all that we do. And as Dr. Cassidy noted, our theme for this year is rooting fruiting, right? That we are rooted in the gospel, that we are rooted in a foundation of God and who he is and what he's doing in the world, so that the evidence of his presence in us is able to be demonstrated to the world around us, in this framework. So you'll hear more about this hopefully as we go. There's a couple different points to keep in mind. So we have a program manual that Dr. Herzl just updated beautifully for us. And this program manual is stored on our Canvas shell. So all of you have registered for classes for this fall, hopefully, and you'll see those classes in Canvas. The one thing you may not see yet that we need to add you to is our orientation site in Canvas. And so you'll always have one Canvas shell up where we provide just basic orientation information. This is where this recording will be. This is where the slides will be. This is where our manual will be. So if for some reason you don't see that CNS orientation Canvas shell in your Canvas dashboard, send an email to me and I'll make sure you get added. Okay, so seth.scott@ciu.edu. Just email me and we'll make sure you're added to that shell by the end by next week, so that you can see those different pieces. But in there you'll see the School of Counseling manual that basically has everything you need to know about anything in our program, and we will encourage you to reference that if you have questions about what classes should I be taking, what's the progression, who do I talk to about this, what if I have a complaint, who's in charge of this. All of those different pieces are listed in that manual. Okay. Again, hopefully you've all been able to register for classes. The CIU student handbook available to you through the My CIU tab will show you how to register. Your advisor has been assigned, so all of you have an academic advisor as one of us faculty. We don't see the same things you do when we go to advise for registering, but if you have questions about registering, reach out to us. You don't need our approval to register. We recommend that you follow the program planner, which you'll see in a couple minutes, and just take the classes in order. The classes are ordered intentionally in the same way that kind of the name of one of the first classes is Foundations of Clinical Mental Health Counseling. It's a foundational class. You're going to need that before you do everything else. And so we recommend taking those in order as you go. Your textbooks are, I love books, right? Doctor, you could see books behind a lot of us, right? We like books. And so we try to make sure that the textbooks that we select are ones that are going to contribute to your learning, growth, discipleship. And so in every class, you're going to have kind of traditional clinical textbooks that align with our CACREP standards. And then you'll have other theologically engaged books to try to help you think through this in a biblical worldview. Some of your books are provided as ebooks through the CIU library. These books don't cost you anything. They're in the library. Some books you're going to have to either purchase, or you can, or they'll be sent to you either as e-copies or physical copies through Slingshot. Slingshot is our textbook provider partner. I'm personally not a fan of Slingshot. We've joked that you have to spit every time we say Slingshot. But you have the opportunity as a student. You've been given login information and access to Slingshot. Most of the time, it's going to be more economical for you to purchase your textbooks through Amazon or another, or even the library, like an outside library or used books, than it would be through Slingshot. The convenience of their service in knowing what you need and sending it to you causes an upcharge. So you can go into Slingshot and you can opt out of Slingshot in your account. That means that you're going to need to be kind of responsive and responsible to get those textbooks that you need. You will see what those textbooks are in the syllabus for the course that's on Canvas, as well as the first module tab on Canvas, to see which ones are offered by the library and which ones are offered, which ones you'll need to purchase. You can also contact the instructors and we can let you know what books they're there. But check Canvas first. That's an important part of that, and just kind of account for the potential delay if you have to order the books. But we try to kind of keep that in mind as we go. I'm always amazed now, like I'll order something and it'll be like on my doorstep before like 6 a.m. the next day from Amazon. But that's because we live right near a distribution center. And those happy little Rivian trucks just come with their innocent little headlights to drop off your happy packages. But all right, our calendar for this coming year, you'll see in My CIU. And so you'll see when the different breaks are for fall. Your breaks are for all of your courses are going to be the week of fall break, which I think I think it's the second week of October. Is that Is that right? Yeah, second week of October, and then Thanksgiving week, right? So every semester is 16 weeks long, and you have 14 weeks of engagement in that. You can use that week break in October to rest and read a fun book, or you can use it to work ahead, or you can use it to catch up and sleep, right? You can use it any way that you want. Just know that in the fall, we have the fall break and Thanksgiving. In spring, you'll have a spring break, and then you'll have the last week of the semester. That is off because going into the next semester is kind of back to back. And then same for summer. You'll have 4th of July off and then the last week of the semester. But you'll see other events and activities in the academic calendar that's listed. So our program requirements here goes to Dr. Perry.
I don't know about you, but we've been sitting for an hour and I've gotten 2 time to stand notices on my watch. So I'm going to be very efficient at moving through these because I know you've been sitting for a long time. And this is a lot of information. It's all available on these slides and in the manual. So I'm going to go over all of the things on this slide. But before we switch to the next slide, I want to point out 2 things that are hard to see and one that there's not a slide on it. You'll see the competency exam. Just know that we are switching to a portfolio model, so that is going to change. So you might not hear about that. And then in Duke Blue, there is something that says Bible reading plan. We invite students through the 5314 class and 5315 to read the Bible through for a year, every year. And that's pretty guided in those 2 initial classes. But of course, we encourage you, obviously, to be reading God's word all the time. We just do it in a formatted way in those classes. Dr. Scott, if you can move to the next slide, I'm going to go through all of these program requirements slide by slide. The first is the program informed consent. This is in your manual. One of the things that we want to remind you of or underscore there are some things that are part of being in a master's program in counseling that I think are pretty unique to a program like this. One of them is that we just want to kind of let you know, and you need to consent to this, that you will be in every single class, be invited to reflect on your thoughts about whatever it is, the content, what's happening inside of you. When I teach techniques, I actually want you to get quite physiological and talk about even your heart rate, what's happening in your mind as we're talking about different things. So this is a program that invites and kind of requires you to increase your skills in terms of self-awareness, self-examination, and reflection. I personally believe to the extent that you can do that within yourself, you can offer that to your clients. So it's utmost importance in this program. Hopefully, not surprisingly, there are going to be topics that we address in a program like this that are going to hit close to home. Certainly in a course like trauma, but also I taught counseling adolescents and children this past summer. And one of the ways that we do that is we revisit our own childhood and some of the wounds that we experienced, just so that we can become aware of what may enter the space and what may interfere in our ability to be able to hold a space for somebody else. So just know, please read what it says about these things in the manual. In many of our courses, you'll be doing role plays with peers, practicing maybe techniques, practicing ethical scenarios, all kinds of things. So just know that we invite you, encourage you to start practicing the work of being a counselor pretty early on. And that is a vulnerable position to be in. Those are often videotaped, but they're always assessed by your peer or your peer group and then a professor. So a lot of vulnerability in this program, which is a good thing because our clients are coming in the most vulnerable position, and we need to practice that on a regular basis. Dual relationships, meaning that your professors are obviously in the role of being a professor, someone who's assessing your work, but we are also, I meet with students all the time about clinical work in this field or job placement. I just had an a meeting with a student who's graduated, just about wondering which job to take. So we are switching from different roles. We are certainly not your friends, although it will feel like that. I consider myself as a shepherd in this role, walking beside you all in different capacities. Confidentiality. You in practicum and internship will be sharing tapes of actual client work, but I would extend confidentiality to even the role plays. When we are practicing with each other in techniques, we are asking students to bring actual life issues that they're dealing with. And so we underscore just the need to be confidential in what is shared with you, even in role plays, but certainly when you're seeing clients. You will hear a lot about ethics, the boundaries of competence in ethics, which is one of the courses I teach, but you will be pushing up against that in a program like this. Certainly when you hit practicum, the number one thing we hear from students is, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not ready. And the reality is you don't know what you're doing and you're not ready and you're not going to feel ready even after you graduate. This is a hard profession, but it's one of those that you're failing safely. I like that expression because you are being given the permission to counsel when you hit all of your courses in a CACREP accredited program. If you've had those courses, you're deemed competent in this field. So failing safely, meaning pushing yourself with supervision and obviously lots of wisdom is part of growth in this field. And then this is not listed actually on the program informed consent in the manual, but there is a section in the manual on just the FERPA regulations and email. You will be given, if you already have been given, an email for CIU. I just personally want to highlight, if you have another email you've been using, you need to get in the habit of checking your CIU email, please, especially for 5314 and 5315 students, which is one of the first courses you take. I know for me, I often am sending emails to those groups because we're all in one course together. So you need to be checking those and understand the FERPA regulations of privacy within that. Next slide. For those of you who are starting this fall, which is all of you, I would say that are on this call, you have a suggested program of study. So when you're registering, please follow that. You can always reach out to your advisor. I've met with several of you this incoming students for the fall, especially if you are not taking a full load and you want some wisdom on what are the 2 or 3 courses I should take this fall. That's an important thing to think about, especially we have access to the scheduling across the next 2 years. So it's helpful to meet with your advisor just to make sure that you're being wise if you're not doing this full-time. If you're doing this full-time, please follow that plan as it's written, because you need to have certain courses before you hit your summer residencies, which may be the next slide. So we'll go ahead and switch slides. You can backfill anything that I'm missing, Dr. Scott. In this program, it is CACREP accredited, which means it's really tight. There are many courses. Most of your courses are required, but you get 2 electives in this program. So these are the electives that we are offering over the next year and a half or so. But I also want to just say, as I'm talking about electives, please make sure that you're looking at your state licensure or where you plan to be when you become licensed, because many of your states will dictate what your electives will be. For example, the state of Florida requires sexuality counseling. I know the state of Illinois, I think, requires a course in addictions. So you really need to be looking at your states because it may dictate what electives you get to choose. But those are what we're offering in the next year and a half or so. Your first summer to come together will be next summer, summer 2027. And you will be taking groups that summer. You can also take an elective while you're, next summer while you're also taking this. But residency is required for this is required for groups. Groups will be the course that is required in your first residency. That takes place the 3rd week of May. You are required to be there. So look at your calendars now. You can figure out or ask your advisor what the 3rd week of May is officially on the semester calendar. That is a week-long period of being together with all of the students in the program, all the students in the program. And we kick that off on a Sunday night with a worship service, and then we have classes all day, Monday through Thursday. We do some fun events in the evening. And then the rest of the summer, you'll be doing some coursework before and some coursework following that residency throughout the summer. It is a 16-week full summer as well, just FYI. For those students who are planning to enter practicum in the summer of 2027, that would be this coming summer. If any of you are here on this call now, there will be an information meeting following this orientation directly after our time together. You will need to be submitting candidacy applications, which are basically just ensuring that you have all of the courses you need to meet before you begin practicum in the summer. To be eligible for candidacy, students have to have completed those 10 prereq courses with at least a B or higher, and you must maintain or have had a GPA of 3.0 or higher. Now, some of you, when you apply this fall, you will be hitting some of those prerequisite courses in the spring. That's fine, and that will be indicated on that application. Any student that's on what's called a professional improvement plan is going to be considered on a case-by-case basis. That may be talked about in a little bit. Don't worry about it. If you're a first year, this is really for people who are about to enter practicum. The year 2 residency, so you'll go to groups in your first year. Again, if you're a very part-time student, that might change, and talk to your advisor about the planning for that. But your second residency, where we are all together, you'll be taking a practicum course, and you will also begin to be seeing clients that summer. We just finished up a practicum course, and so those students are now going into internship. Again, same thing, we'll all be together. The prac students will be together, the group students will be together. We'll be doing a lot of fun things, and you will be working at your sites and meeting with your internship or practicum instructor, weekly for those 16 weeks, except for the weeks that we're off. You can switch slides. Yeah. I think I'm just going to highlight this slide for you to come back to. There are CACREP requirements for your clinical experience. I would say the biggest question I get from incoming students is, when do I need to start looking for a site? And I would say not now. Don't worry about it at this point, but just keep in the back of your mind that it is on you to be finding sites when that time comes. And we're going to help you to the extent that we can, but it is not our job to find those sites. You will be finding those. These requirements for hours for both practicum and then internship are on here. You'll need 40 hours of direct for practicum, which means you'll be sitting across from a client or co-counseling or doing a group with another therapist for at minimum 40 hours. The way our program runs is you begin practicum in the summer, and then you do internship 1 in the fall following, and then the spring following that is internship 2. Practicum hours stay within that shell, meaning you have to get those hours and this requirement on the left side of the screen during practicum. They do not flow into internship, whereas internship 1 and internship 2 are fluid. Those are the hours. This is all in the manual, and you'll need to come back to it as you're getting ready for this particular part of your training, which is the field experience. The next slide. Gatekeeping responsibilities. So CACREP requires, that's our accreditation body requires us to be gatekeepers. And what that means is we need to make sure that there's a readiness in each of you to enter the field. And there are different kind of places along the way where you will be meeting with your advisor, where you'll be getting feedback from your professors, and we're assessing you, not just in academic. You may be a straight A student, but when we're talking about gatekeeping responsibilities, we're not just looking at your academic importance, this academic achievement or outcomes. I'm trying to be fast because I'm mindful of time. This acronym is a helpful way of looking at what our gatekeeping responsibilities are. First, going back to what I said earlier, we just want to make sure that you're self-aware, because self-aware influences your ability to be others aware. So are you aware of your impact on others? Are you aware of what's happening within you and between you and around you? We want to see progress. When you were in your interviews, we asked you some ethical questions. We knew that you didn't have all of the training that you needed. And so we're just looking for progress. So when we give you feedback, we're just wanting to see that you're making progress in whatever area that we're giving you feedback. And the posture that we're looking for is a posture of humility and openness, an ability to receive what's being offered to you from our perspective and even from your peers' perspective. One of our biggest responsibilities is protecting future clients. Again, I said this word before, but clients come in a vulnerable position. And if you've been one, you know what I'm talking about, and hopefully you have been one. But you come in ready to talk about a part of your life that's maybe hurting. And so we really need to protect those clients and make sure that you're ready to sit across from them and have the skills and awareness and all of the things that you're going to need. We also need to make sure that you're a good fit for this profession. A lot of times this is a developmental piece, but sometimes people really, really feel called to this field, but it might be a not yet. There may be some parts of their lives that they need to continue to focus on, find balance in to make sure that they're ready to handle the load of this profession. So that's part of what we mean by gatekeeping. There's a nice definition for feedback. It is the transmission of evaluative or corrective information about an action, event, or process to the original or controlling source. Basically, we're in an evaluative position where we're evaluating you all the time and giving you feedback, obviously in the form of academic feedback and papers, but also interpersonal feedback. This is for your growth. You will be getting feedback even post-masters. I'm a clinical supervisor, and so I'm still giving feedback on a regular basis to my 10 to 12 supervisees. We like you. We love our jobs. That's why we're here. We love the field, and we are ready to walk alongside you. None of us enjoy saying hard things, but we want to make sure that we care enough about you and your professional development, and again, the clients that you're going to sit across from. Is this me too? Okay. Every year we're going to be doing a PPR. You'll be doing this in a course as well as with your advisor. You'll be meeting with them at least once a year. A professional performance review. You know what? Every program I've been in has a lot of these little acronyms. So welcome to the world of CIU acronyms. It's called a PPR. And this is just going to be a place where you're going to be examining yourself, looking at attributes within you, dispositions in the classroom, your ability to deal with conflict, the way that you impact others and your awareness of that, your own spiritual development. You're going to sort of move through this document and assess yourself once per year. This is done, and it is, I believe, going to be in Field X is where we're storing these. I'm not 100% sure because we've just moved our platforms. Along with the PPR, I think you can switch slides. Okay, I was going to go to the CAPE. You will have let me do that. You will also have another wonderful acronym called the CAPE, Collaborative Annual Performance Evaluation. A little bit different, very related to the PPR, but it's a little bit different. Also, once a year, it's related to your assessment of how you're doing in this program spiritually, academically. Again, it's just an opportunity for you to get to meet with your advisor, for you to be able to sit down and reflect on how am I doing in each of these areas, spiritually, again, academically, professionally, all of those things. Okay, I think if you want to go back to that last slide, yeah, we don't have grad advising chapels like the undergrad program. If you were a CIU undergrad, you have been assigned an advisor. It is one of us, and you can always reach out. If your professor, your advisor is an online professor, we would be happy to meet with you via Zoom anytime. We schedule those together. And if your advisor is residential and you happen to be residential, they often will meet students for coffee, lunch in their offices on campus There are no courses that require our faculty approval. However, there are sometimes some prerequisites on those courses that you might want to talk about whether you're ready for that particular course and talk with your advisor about those. So again, you want to look at the sequencing and make sure that you're doing the sequencing of your courses in the way that is suggested for you, because you want to make sure that you've met the required courses for candidacy. Woof. Okay, last but not least, mentioned this earlier. It is up to you to make sure that you are checking your licensure requirements in your state. I cannot underscore that enough. You don't need to worry about it just yet, but it will determine what electives that some of you have to take because of your licensing. So it's just going to vary. And again, this is a great one to talk with an advisor. There are some licensing boards that I am just appalled may be too strong, but they are very hard to navigate. So I have sat with students trying to navigate some of even looking for the requirements. Just reach out to your advisor. That's what we're here for, but do some research on your own too. I think that is the end of my section. I'm going to hand it off to Professor Kinney and get some water.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. And I'll just add to the last slide, the licensure requirements, all that stuff. We're going to review that in the foundations course as an assignment. So if you feel very confused about that, we are going to look at it together, and I can help you if you need some assistance there. But I did want to talk a little bit about advocacy. This is a value not just of the counseling field, but also of our program and us as Christians. And so, we want to align our work with God's heart for justice and caring for the oppressed and the vulnerable. And so part of our role as counselors is to find ways that we can support people in ways that go beyond just the counseling room, right? And so the counseling process is changing a little bit this year. If you've talked with other students, they may have a different kind of understanding of the advocacy process. But so we've moved. We expect students to participate in advocacy activities at least once per year. And we're going to talk more in the foundations course about what advocacy is, what it looks like, and have you kind of dream up an advocacy plan, which is going to be separate from your advocacy activity that you participate in. And I'll help you understand the distinction there. But so the course, over the course of your program, we have kind of benchmark points for each year for you to participate in an activity that's going to be tied to one of your courses that year. So in your first year, all your advocacy stuff is going to happen in the foundations course. Then in the second year, we'll have you participate in something during your multicultural course. And then the final year, it'll be part of your internship process. And so we have different kind of hopes for you as you engage in this, either as just kind of participating, observing kind of towards the beginning of your program, and then moving more towards leadership roles at the end of your program so that you learn how you can continue doing this as you move beyond this program. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of these professional organizations. So we have the American Mental Health Counselors Association, American Counseling Association. There's also, those are kind of the big national organizations. And then we also have Christian-specific organizations. We have state-specific organizations. We'll talk some more about what all these entail, but they are ways that we can find ways to stay connected to the profession and also find ways that we can advocate together for clients that we're working with. So these are just more. Again, I said that there's different activities that we're going to do and have you as an assignment for each of these courses that I mentioned. I think that kind of just repeats what I said. And then part of your completing these activities, you're going to submit something, and that's going to be kind of course specific. So at least I know in the foundations course, you'll do a little bit of explaining what your activity was and a little bit of reflection on how it was for you to be involved in that process. So you may be wondering, like, what does this even look like? So just some ideas for you. It may be partnering with an agency or an organization in your community to support something that's going to benefit others' mental health in some way. So this may be working with a homeless shelter, or if you're on campus, participating in a CIU Mental Health Awareness Day. It may be some kind of a 5K or something that's raising awareness. So these are just a couple organizations, particularly in the Columbia area, that host events sometimes. Other things you can do on your own, maybe running like a social media campaign on suicide awareness, or raising some money for a homeless shelter, something like that. So just ways that we can help you guys get involved in seeing that there are systems outside of just the counseling room that are impacting the health and wellness of our clients.
Great. Thank you, Professor Kinney. Before we switch to online academic tools with Dr. K, we want to wait for the returning students to come because some of these things have changed. So they should be here in like 10 minutes. So let's take a 10-minute stretch break. Get up, move around. Don't injure yourself, but maybe do a breathing exercise or stretch exercise, and we will reconvene at 10:30 in 10 minutes. All right. So we have another minute as people are coming back, but for just a reminder for those uh, um, current students, second and third year students that are joining us. We've been recording this, and the slides will be on the orientation shell. So if there's stuff like the current progression planner or reminders on candidacy or questions about advising or textbooks or registration, we've covered those pieces, as well as our theme for the year, Root and Fruitin'. And so you'll see that in the slides as you go back and look at it on here, or if you rewatch some of the recording. So for returning students, those are some of the things that we covered. And now I will hand it over to Dr. K.
All right, we're going to briefly touch on some of the online tools that we have. The first of which is Canvas. A lot of schools use Canvas, so you may already be familiar with it, but that's where you're going to find your classes with the modules and where you submit assignments and those kinds of things. So there is an orientation course. If you're not familiar with Canvas, it can be really helpful. One thing to keep in mind, make sure that you adjust your announcements so that you're getting, I know that Canvas can drive you nuts. There's a way to turn off some of their like daily summaries. I don't need a daily summary, but sometimes we will try to contact you guys through Canvas. Like we'll post an announcement, and it's really helpful to get those to your email for a lot of students. So keep that in mind. And if you need help, there's Regina who can help you with Canvas or getting on that orientation classroom. All right. We use FieldX and SimCare AI. It's actually the same company platform, but it's just two different sides of the platform. So FieldX is where you're going to log your hours for practicum and internship. And we have some of our current students who are in internship or going into internship right now. They've been using FieldX. The great thing about them is that they have very quick help. So when it comes time for all of that, we'll give you an email for their tech support. SimCare AI is really cool. It's something that you purchased as part of your course fee in 5306. We'll be getting you guys set up in it. And it uses AI simulations so that you can practice counseling skills. And I've played around with them. They're really fun. You can use different kinds of models and have it give you feedback on different specific things. So we'll be incorporating some of that into your classes. FieldX, you won't really need until you're going into, until we're going into practicum and internship. So those of you who are applying for candidacy, you should have actually received an email for this, and we'll talk about that in the candidacy meeting. One thing I do want you to keep in mind as we're talking about tech tools is that there are some things that we can help you with as professors, and then there are some things that I will generously forward you on to tech support because we have many skills. One of mine is not actually IT, and so I can help with some things and not all things. So don't be offended if we send you on to tech support or we say, hey, for this one, you need to contact IT, just because we don't always have all of the access to do the things. And then our last one is Vault. So when you record with clients, What we don't want to do is like email that video to people because that is not very secure in protecting our clients' confidentiality. So we needed a tool where you could upload videos and it's encrypted to keep client information safe. It's HIPAA compliant because we have to abide by HIPAA laws, and that is Vault. And so you'll be getting access to Vault so that you can upload videos. I think there are some other classes where you'll upload videos to Vault, but it's just to keep the client confidentiality. And I know sometimes it can be frustrating. Some of you guys have expressed frustrations with how slow it can be to upload a video to Vault, that kind of thing. I'm like, I totally hear you. But it's part of the challenges of online learning. Online learning has so many benefits, but like I went to an all-in-person program. We had thumb drives and you would just pop it right in and show your supervisor right there or leave it for your supervisor. And we don't have that ability. So we have to have something that's HIPAA compliant that's going to be safe for your clients. And that is what Vault is. I don't think this is me. Is this someone else?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. K. By the way, if you can pronounce my last name and Dr. K's last name correctly, you get extra credit somewhere, I think. Is that right? So I want to talk about program policies. Let's talk about class attendance. So for those of you that are at the residential, will be attending classes residentially, you really are expected to attend every class. And what we find in master's and the PhD programs is that the relationships that are built amongst the cohort is really, really important for your education, for your resilience throughout the program. So it's incredibly important to attend the classes. And you're expected to attend all the classes and to show up on time and to be ready for the class, be ready to discuss, to have completed the materials. And in addition to this is just the expectation, this is preparing you to be a professional in the field. So for some of you that have not been in a kind of professional field, this is the expectation that when you have a client coming in at 3:30, you're actually ready to go at 3:30 for them. And when you're done at 4:30, you're done at 4:30. You're honoring the boundaries. So there is expectations for you to come in. If you're residential students, if you're an online student, we don't have requirements for most classes for you to actually be in a class at a specific time. So our online students are in what we call an asynchronous program, which means, again, I think one of the professors will be talking about this a little bit later. You are able to do the assignments kind of at your own pace. So in the asynchronous online classes, we don't have required classes with the exceptions of a couple of classes. But what most of us do is have optional, and probably all of us have optional Zoom classes throughout each week. Some of us meet every week. For some classes, it's every other week. It varies a little bit per professor and per class, what the class requires. So those optional online classes are just that. They're not requirements. If you're an online student, they're optional. But again, what we find is that the students who attend those and find as many ways as possible to connect with the other students and the professor tend to do better. And not only do better academically, but develop better as disciples of Christ who do counseling. Okay. So we do require also that all of the papers are done in APA. If you don't have this wonderful book, I suggest that you get it, and it's going to be required in maybe all the classes. I'm not sure, or at least many of the classes. The APA manual will tell you about all the formatting that needs to take place and all the papers. You see it up on the slide. What I want to do before we move on to the next one is say this. For all the discussion boards and for all the papers, there are page limits. Okay, that's probably for a couple of reasons. Certainly for me, one is self-preservation. So if I'm asking you to write a 5-page paper and I have 30 students, that's a lot of reading on my part. And unfortunately, the people that I'm grading at the end of those 30 students may get a little bit more of a frustrated Dr. Storer than the ones at the beginning. Okay, so that is true in part, but also most importantly for your development. is we want you to understand that discussion boards may have 300 word limits or 500 word limits or whatnot, or the papers have 4 to 7 pages, something like that. It is a practice to help you think in such a way that you can communicate a bunch of information in a short period of time and communicate it succinctly and clearly, because these are some of the skills you'll be using when you are counseling. A short 55-minute session may involve, in a particular session may involve a lot of communication back and forth. And we want to, as counselors, to use that time wisely. So we want you to, so the page limits and the margins aren't there just for them to be there. They're there to help us help you develop to communicate very succinctly. So let's go on to the next one, please. So let's talk about late policy. So all assignments are to be completed and turned in at the specific due date and time. So most classes, most of the time, will have assignments due Wednesdays at 11:59 p.m. and Saturdays at 11:59 p.m., all Eastern Standard Time. There are some exceptions to that, so please be sure that when you're in class, you are looking at the specific assignments and when they are due. In some classes, you may have some assignments due on Tuesday. The psychopathology class, for example, in the spring, there's some assignments due on Tuesday, some on Wednesday, some on Saturday. So please be sure that you look at the date and time that they are due. Any late assignments will receive a 10% reduction in grading. Okay. And so then consequently, once you're 10 days or more late, then you effectively have a 0 for that assignment. And so just be aware of that. So turn them in on time. Academic probation. If your GPA falls below a 3.0, that's a B, not a B minus, a B. If it falls below a 3.0 for a semester or overall, then you'll be placed on academic probation. And the reason for that, as was alluded to earlier, is for us to be able to help you bring it back up above a 3.0. So if you're on academic probation, you're limited to just taking 10 hours in a semester. It is probably wise. I would advise you that if you are struggling academically and to keeping your grades up, make some attempts on your own to rectify that, and also talk to your advisor. We set up a meeting with our advisor. We can assist you with that. Some students historically have reduced the number of classes that they have taken in a particular semester so that their grades can improve. They may slow down the pace, but just be aware that if you are receiving financial aid, that you need at least 6 credit hours per semester to continue to receive that financial aid. That's not a CIU rule, that's a financial aid rule. And so if you slow down the speed, the pace with which you're going through the program and you're receiving financial aid, really you can only slow down to really 2 classes, which is 6 credit hours. So of course we work to help you get it back up over a 3.0 so you can be removed from academic probation. Okay, so you can, and this is in the handbook, you can submit what we call an academic petition. An academic petition is where you are formally requesting any academic change, and the examples are given up on your slide. So how you do that is it's pretty straightforward. Go to this link, myciu.edu, look at forms, submit, send an email to your academic advisor, which is one of the faculty here, and we'll talk with you through that whole process of the academic petition before we forward it on to a decision that is made by the assistant dean. Okay. Grade changes. All your work for a particular semester, the latest it can be turned in is the last day of the semester. So you want to consider that as you're working through the assignments. Certainly, if you don't have some of the assignments completed from early in the semester, that's more than 10 days late. You might consider not turning them in at that point. Um, and so, of course, it doesn't apply for practicum or internship courses. You can file a class. You can request an incomplete for a particular class if life happens and some assignments get pushed back. Just know that if you request an incomplete, there are some standards around you requesting that incomplete. Like you will have to have completed more than 50% of the assignments, and then post end of semester, you only have 30 days to complete all the assignments to get it turned in. Okay, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back. Welcome to returning students. It's good to have you a part of things again. So I missed talking about my own research interests when I was introducing myself. That's all kind of part of what I'm going to talk about now. Also, I am one of the remote professors. I come out as often as I can. This summer, I traveled a much with my family, so I wasn't out as much. I was there almost all of May, and then I didn't come in August like I usually do. But anyway, one of the things that I think for some people who get into a master's in counseling program, that is, what's the word I want to use? Off-putting. Maybe that's kind of a word to, is thinking about being involved in research and other scholarly activities. And I want to encourage all of you to think about the world of counseling, the profession of counseling, as an ever evolving profession. All right. There are many laws and some that aren't quite laws, but very strong recommendations that change at the state level, that change at the national level. And in order to be current with those things, it's often really important for you to understand the research that has come out that is the precedent for some of the changes, that sort of thing. And reading research is a learned um, activity. All right. You can read research and not understand it at all. And you can read research quickly and efficiently when you understand what it is that you need to be looking for. And we can help you with that. And it is truly very important for you to be able to have that skill. Okay. Now, we also, although people talked about, most of the professors already talked about their research interests, and I kind of forgot to talk about that. And we have a newly created hub, research and scholarship hub, that Dr. Scott actually created, and now I am supervising and updating. And on that, it's on SharePoint, which is Dr. Scott. They all have the opportunity to get to SharePoint once they're in the program. Is that
Yeah, as part of the Microsoft account, we might have to provide permissions to the page as you request it, but we can get everybody on it.
Yeah, and there's some announcements in the orientation course in Canvas for both the master's and the PhD students to talk about, and the link to the hub is there. And we are in the process of updating that because several of us are involved in research or getting ready to um, add some additional research. And one of the cool things about being a part of research is it really helps you connect with the people with whom you are in the program. All right. We're looking at creating teams, not just in CIU, but with other Christian universities. Okay. So there are currently two research topics that are on there, and then there's an opportunity for student projects to be put on the hub. I want to encourage, so um, when you are a part of something like this, it broadens your understanding of people, of the profession, of connecting with things that are bigger than just your individual program. And the more that you connect with other people in the program and other people in other programs, the stronger your skills become. And research isn't scary at all. Okay, so I already told you that I'm a professor, and then I'm a professional counselor, and then I'm a licensed music therapist. I've actually been a music therapist longer than I've been a clinical counselor. Okay, so I love the arts, and I love expressive arts, and I love connecting with people in various ways. Okay. So, one of my newest research work with some of the other students who are in the program, we've been talking about this, is looking at how can we um, uh, affect people's understanding of how expressive arts can be effective. Okay. And I love research. I love quantitative research. I love qualitative research. I'm kind of a qualitative research girl. I teach the qualitative courses in the PhD program, but I believe in research in general, and I don't want you to be afraid of it. So I want to encourage you to be involved in something like this. Okay. And also in our scholarly and professional engagement, we also want to share with you, and we do this in those orientation courses. Okay, we let you know of other career opportunities or program opportunities. We have a local chapter of the National Honor Society for counselors, and there's professional leadership opportunities for that. Professor Kenny talked to you about advocacy opportunities. So these are all ways for us to connect with each other and also with the profession, and ultimately to serve people. All right. It's That's what we're here for, is to serve people, and to serve people from a godly heart, and from a place of loving people as God has asked us to love people. And part of that is being well informed about possibilities. So I want to encourage you to connect with me, anybody. I mean, as I said, um, Professor Kinney has a research group for spiritual abuse. Dr. Scott is doing a research on cultivating shalom, which is very exciting. Okay. I mean, they're all very exciting. And so connect with people, connect with each other. You come up with some ideas. The other thing is, we really, really, really encourage students to go to conferences and present either their own or with a professor. It is such a growth experience. I can tell you that the ladies that were part of what a lot of the ladies that were part of what we did at CAPS this past March just felt so strongly that their understanding of what we do and how it can be effective was really strengthened. So uh, connect with us about this, and see it as an exciting opportunity. All right. Is this something I'm supposed to talk about, or
I can touch on it. So I mentioned it earlier,
yeah.
um, but we are really excited to be kind of launching the community facing clinic called the Terrace. And so it's about 2.5 miles from my office right now from campus. And you'll see information on this. We'll continue to talk more about this. Laney Ott is our director for that. But it is an opportunity to expand your clinical experience while also serving our community, which has been kind of a goal of our program since its inception in 1995. So you'll be hearing more about this good opportunity. I think this is you.
This me?
Well, it can be you, actually. You're probably the most appropriate person for it.
Okay. So we have what's called the Grad Life Council. This is a group of students. It's probably the only other club from the graduate level perspective, aside from the undergrad, all those clubs that they have. We also have Chi Sigma Iota, which Dr. Jones Cotton works closely with them. But the GLC is just a group of students from various other disciplines. We have some counseling students on the council. We have some seminary students. We have business students. So they're going to be hosting some events throughout the year, mostly on campus, but we also have a new initiative to get some more events happening for the online students. So just be watching there's another Grad Life Council page on Canvas that'll be sending out those announcements. We have things like a graduate chapel happens about once a semester. This semester, I think we're doing a free coffee, or it's not free, it's free for new students. New students, if they go get one free coffee at the coffee shop on campus. We have a cookout coming up. We've got a hike. So just be on the lookout for some of those things if you want to get to know other students beyond the counseling program, or even if, a group of you counseling students want to go together and just do something fun together instead of studying all the time.
All right. Well, one of the things that we just also want to highlight is a unique aspect of our program. We like to say that we have one program that has different modalities, courses, both residential, in person, and online. We don't have an online program. We don't have a residential program. We have one program, but you may engage with it in different modalities. We have some students who are completely residential, live here, perhaps within the Columbia area. We have students that are primarily online, except for residencies, do everything online and quite literally live all around the world. And we have some students that are kind of in the middle. We have students that live maybe in Atlanta or Charlotte that maybe come for one class on Tuesday morning or afternoon and then do all the other classes online. So you have that flexibility. And so we always like to remind students that there are some pros and cons that need to be considered depending on what modality you're going to engage with. As you can see from this slide, in person, you have these opportunities to just engage, network more with people face to face, more access to an instructor perhaps. But all of our instructors are available for meetings, and we're happy to schedule those meetings in person or online. But there is a little more engagement when you're in person. In fact, you can walk down the hall, and if you see Professor Kinney's door open, she would love for you to come steal some of her candy and engage accordingly. And so there is some of those realities. But being online, a significant amount of flexibility. Dr. Stolreiter mentioned this before, in that our online courses are asynchronous, meaning you work at your pace. There isn't a specific time that you need to be online with live lectures. We may have optional Zoom calls, but optional being the functional word there. And so it really adapts to your realities, to your schedule. Has some lower costs, which you've seen gas prices these days. I'm sure some of you can appreciate that. And so we always want to remind you that to not get the pros of online learning if you're a in-class student, and vice versa. We want you to appreciate the distinctions between the two. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see there are some trade-offs with that as well. And so when you're in person, you kind of have to live by that schedule. You have to be at a certain place at a certain time, and it's more geared towards a certain learning style. Whereas online, you don't have as much social interaction. It doesn't say you don't have any, but you need to be much more engaged and proactive about your time management and self-discipline. And you need to adapt accordingly. And so you'll see here on the next slide, we just want to remind you about some of those ideas in engaging with the different realities. If you go to the next slide there, Dr. Scott, um, sometimes we have students in person or in an online context, and they hear what the other course is doing. Like Dr. Jones Cotton, we both teach the multicultural course. I teach in person, she teaches online. And sometimes the people online like, hey, I heard the in-person class is doing this, or the in-person class, hey, I heard the online class is doing that. We want you to understand we're going to try and keep them as similar as possible, but because of the modality, there's differences. So don't compare them and say that you're missing out or we're doing something that is not offered. The reality is they're just different, but we try to keep them equitable as much as possible. As I was mentioned before, online courses may offer Zoom calls, and so we try to find a time that works for the majority of students. But I say this on behalf of my fellow professors here. We try to find a time that works for us as well. And so we live here in the United States of America, either on the East Coast or in Central Time. And so we have students from around the world. And if you're not able to join us, we will try to record it so you have availability to that. If you're asking us to meet at times that don't work for us, we'll try and provide that recording so you can engage with it as well. Which is why we always ask you to make the adjustments you need to succeed in your studies, whether you're in person or online. There's a great passage in the Gospels where Christ talks about engaging as a disciple in his kingdom. And he says, no one puts their hand to the plow without first counting the cost. You're putting your hand to a pretty significant plow and being an MA student in this program. And so we want you to count the cost. Counting the cost means you may need to adjust things, right? Please do not go to your family and say, sorry, I'm going to have to put you on the back burner. That's not one of the things we want you to adjust. But there may be other things you need to take a look at with your work or ministry or just life in general so that you can engage well in this opportunity before you, including the technological skills. To some degree, all of our students engage online, whether you're in person or online. All of you will use online tools that Dr. K mentioned before. So FieldX and Canvas. We want to make sure you have a good computer that has internet access. So we want you to take the time within even this weekend to make sure you're up to speed, understanding what you need to know, and really flourish, whether you're in person, online, or hybrid. We want this to be a great experience for you.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about KCREP. First, I'd just like to say, gratefully, we are KCREP accredited, which is fantastic. KCREP is the gold star standard when we start to think of counseling programs. So KCREP stands for the Council for Accreditation of Counseling and Related Educational Programs. And here at CIU, we recognize the importance of licensure, and the beauty of being KCREP accredited is that it reflects our commitment to preparing you for licensure and the important responsibility of serving others as professional counselors. And so that next bullet of focusing on our responsibility of the program to you, that's what we are endeavoring to offer. We offer courses that are all aligned with standards that are expected for counseling programs. So you can expect to get the best of the best in terms of ensuring that you are learning what you need to be your very best out in the field. It also has responsibilities to you, the responsibilities that you have to our program, which means that we have high expectations of what we expect for you to do as far as coursework. We are expecting you to meet those standards. If we get feedback, just be reassured that we just want to make sure that you're understanding what's expected of you so that and when it comes around again, you'll be able to do well professionally and ethically. And the other piece of that, the bottom line, or really the starting point, is just the responsibility to clients. We want to ensure that you're ready when you go out into the field, so that we know that when clients are in your care, that they're in the best of care. It was mentioned earlier, just the vulnerability of clients. And so we want to make sure you're able to sit with them competently, with integrity, and with compassion. And so KCREP helps us to do that because it holds us to such a high standard. We are super excited that we have full accreditation status through October 31st, 2032. That's phenomenal, exceptional. That came with a lot of work. Our program director, our faculty, just really dedicated to ensuring that we offer the best program. And so KCREP recognized that and gave us that status. Well, we were awarded that status through October 31st, 2032. And then the next slide looks at our annual report. And so maintaining the accreditation, so not just getting it, but maintaining it is an ongoing process. So each year we collect assessment artifacts and student assignments, supervisor evaluations, graduate surveys, all of the outcomes, program outcomes, just to make sure that we're doing a good job stewarding this accreditation in a way that's going to ensure that we're showing that we are continuing to improve and that our students are meeting those standards that are expected. So just a few other things too. There is an advisory board of local stakeholders, and their responsibility is to review the program outcomes, as well as receive feedback from professionals and members of the community. That's important for us to make sure that we are doing our best on the faculty side and in our preparation of students for what's actually needed in the community. In addition to that, our annual report is available on the CIU website each year. Don't worry, we don't expect for you to memorize that. Not this week, maybe next week after the first week of classes, but just kidding. But just knowing that that's there and available for you, but we do encourage students to just take a look at what's going on as it relates to KCREP accreditation for us. So super excited to see all of you, and that's my part. I think next might be Dr. Cassida. Is that right?
Yes. Hey again,
Okay.
everyone. Exciting times. You get to hear from me for a third time this morning. Hey, we want you to do well while you're here. As faculty, it can be easy to feel intimidated and like it's your job to figure out what we want you to give us and to make that happen. Our goal is to help you grow, develop, and form. We really want to see you succeed. And in addition to, and along those lines, if you are falling behind or feeling like the need for more support or understanding, I will speak on behalf of me and maybe ask for cosigns from my other faculty members. Please reach out. It's always better if you are communicative with us in a proactive way than to get to the end of a semester or an assignment, say, help, I need help. I'm not sure what's going on or life has happened. Be really proactive in communicating with us as needs arise, and we'd love to collaborate with you. If you do need additional support, we have some resources. Some of those are our Academic Success Center. You can meet with Lisa or Nick here to help you out. You can find out more about that by going to that site. Here we have a testing center. You can get tutoring. This is by appointment only, so make sure that you schedule that. This is a free thing, with the exception of if you choose to not show, you'll get pinged $5 and maybe have to send an additional gift card to Dr. Scott. That part is not true. In terms of accommodations, we know that as someone that works a lot with clinically with neurodiverse populations, sometimes the needs that you have might be unique. And so if you need accommodations, whether that's learning, emotional, physical issues, ADHD, etc., your process is to, one, have documentation, and then to connect with the Academic Success Center, so that your professors can know going into the semester how we can best support you. I'm making this up. I'm not sure exactly what this slide originally was intended to. I am assuming that it has something to do with while you're in grad school, you need to take care of yourself. I think it's easy to think about self-care as like a bougie. You go to the sauna and cold plunge place and you do that, and then you get your massage, and then you get yoga, and all those things can be part of self-care. I will tell you, as you're in grad school, a great way to practice self-care is to ask, what are the most important things? And what are the good things that I need to say no to so I can say yes to the most important things? When you're in high school, you're saying no to bad things so that you can say yes to good things. You, as an adult in grad school, are having to say no to good things so you can say yes to the most important things. A lot of helpful resources in the library. You can reach out via email. You can go by the library. Our interim library director is Kevin Flickner, who is busy with a lot of things as we're in some transition. But if you have questions about accessing the library, ways to get articles and whatnot, it should be available. You should be able to reach out to Kevin or talk to your professors. We should be able to help you with that.
All right, so we're real close to the end. Don't worry. The few final things are considering the role of academic integrity, right? So you see a lot on here. The basic concept that we want you to be aware of is that the the presentations that you provide in assignments, documentation, if you're presenting it as if you knew it or it's from you, it needs to actually be from you. If you're using someone else's work, either AI or textbooks or articles or resources, you need to cite those. If you quote it directly, it needs to be in quotation marks with page numbers or paragraph numbers with the author and the date. If you're summarizing it, it needs to be the author and the date, right? So recognizing this bigger component of what is plagiarism, it doesn't matter whether you intended to do it or not. If you are citing something that's not original to you, and it's someone else's work or some other work product like AI, that is considered plagiarism for us. And we want to make sure that you're being able to evidence your process in learning. And so you'll see some of the notes in here. Specific examples of plagiarism are when you borrow words, sentences, ideas, conclusions, examples, or even kind of the organization of something from someone else without acknowledging that source. That is plagiarism. If you submit kind of the old classic where you actually submit someone else's complete paper, that would be plagiarism. Even things you pull from AI content, right? If you're pulling things completely and you're not citing the source as a summary or direct quotations, that is all considered plagiarism. Okay, so again, all students are encouraged to use the CIU website. There's lots of good academic integrity modules to help you kind of differentiate and distinguish these different pieces. We want to work with you as your faculty to promote the capacity for learning and thinking. Just generally, the big picture that we want you to consider. We all, as faculty, we all are engaging and interacting with AI as well. I want you to know that it is a useful tool, but that it's a tool in our ability to express our createdness made in the image of God to reflect his glory. And so we want to make sure that even as you're thinking through this, that part of the purpose of graduate education, of really any education, is growth, is, even as Dr. Cassada noted, that rootedness of learning and the process and progression of adversity to strengthen your capacity for learning and growth. And so, as Carol Dweck says in Mindset, right, the view that you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way that you lead your life. So, if you believe that your qualities are carved in stone, that's considered a fixed mindset, and you're going to avoid any challenge to that perspective of, oh, I'm a good writer. If that's a fixed mindset for you, and we provide feedback to you that challenges that idea because we want you to grow, you're going to have a hard time. Whereas a growth mindset says that failure actually provides a means and an opportunity to learn and improve. That's what we're seeking, is this growth mindset concept that you can change and grow through application and practice. AI kind of circumvents all of that growth process. And there will be times throughout the program that you have opportunity to use it. And it's not to say that even in the field of counseling, you won't be using it. We want to make sure that you are developing the muscles of practice and engagement so that you're firing and wiring neural connections to be able to do it in engagement with clients. So recognize this difference. I use this graph when we talk in trauma and as I work with clients, is this idea that all of us kind of exist in this comfort zone. We all think we want to stay in our comfort zone where it feels safe and easy. And that anything outside of that comfort zone is overwhelming and produces fear. The truth, though, is that in order to learn and grow, in order to keep our comfort zone actually from shrinking smaller and smaller, we have to push through our fear and engage learning and growth. And that part of the process actually that we want to train you as well is that the panic zone doesn't have to be a terrifying zone either. You can recover from a panic and being able to calm and regulate your body system, even as Dr. Perry was talking about, so that you can return to parasympathetic response. That allows your learning and growth zones to expand. That's the point of this degree. That's what we're seeking to have you do. And so, I mean, I can tell you, Dr. Matthew and I are working on writing a book, and it would be a lot easier just to say, "Hey, AI, write this for me." The problem is that's not utilizing the gifting and calling that God has for me and expressing my discipleship and expanding his kingdom, because AI is not made in the image of God. I am. And so it's that opportunity to use that gifting and continue to work those muscles as an expression of how God has equipped us and called us to reflect his glory and image in the world. So I want to think through that bigger piece and the recognition that just because it's hard doesn't mean it's wrong. Um, and that actually doing the hard work makes it easier as you go. There's lots of studies that are coming out around the atrophy and limitations of people using AI, even over short durations, that are kind of shocking to me. How quickly people are losing critical thinking skills and capacities because of reliance on AI. We don't want that to happen. We want you to be able to be equipped and effective throughout this process. So we're still kind of working on this, but we kind of have these parameters that we want you to consider. So if it's green, right, you can use AI with citation and a prompt report. So for certain things, like predictive AI, which is kind of editing passive versus active voice, subject verb agreement, like in Grammarly, those kind of things are allowed on most of your written assignments. If you are using it to make edits and changes, that should be cited. If you're using it to input, they'll be cited and reported. Okay, so we're going to start adding these things to the assignment guidelines that you will see on whether it's green, yellow, or red on the different types of assignments that we're using. To support you and us in this process, all written assignments must be submitted using Microsoft Word. All of you as CIU students have access to the Microsoft Suite through Office 365. I would recommend you can download the addition to your desktop. Editing and writing process is different, and the tools are different, and it looks different when you're editing live on the web version versus the desktop version. I would encourage you to download and use the desktop version. It will still save to the cloud, but it makes editing easier. But we want you to turn on the autosave feature and activate version history. And we'll walk through some of that on how to do that. We'll provide those links in the orientation course. This allows us to see your work product as you go. Okay, so when there's questions of, you have a 5-page paper and it took you, 13 minutes to do, there's a question of like, all right, how do we determine that this is your growth in work product? This will help us and help you in this experience. So green, it's allowed. Mostly just predictive AI like Grammarly is going to be in this realm. Permission required with citation and transcript, or use of AI. There'll be times where we say we don't want you to do that, or you need permission to do that. If you're using AI, it's permitted or allowed, you always have to cite it. And actually, AI can do that for you if you ask for the citation. You can also, with a lot of the primary AI tools, you can download the PDF of your transcript of that progression. And so the times that you're using it permitted, that's going to be required to be submitted in addition to that citation, so that we can see what that process is using and we can see how you engaged it. because we want you, if you're going to be using AI, to use it as a tool and not use it as the product, as the outcome or the means. Our goal is to determine what do you know and how are you engaging. And then there's going to be times where it's red, where we don't want you to use generative AI. So difference between generative and predictive AI. But all of the assignments are going to be red unless otherwise noted by the instructor per assignment. So no AI usage unless noted specifically by the instructor. That's our default setting at this point so that we can encourage learning and growth. Okay. Um, so one of the pieces that we're going to think about, even in creating an effective and safe learning environment, is that we do follow, as an educational institution, Title IX. This basically means that you should be able to be safe and free to learn, so that you shouldn't be concerned about sexual discrimination, harassment, assault, misconduct, relationship violence, stalking, retaliation. All of those pieces allow you to feel kind of safe and equipped in this environment. There will be times in the content of the course where some of the things that we discuss in preparing you for counseling are going to be tense and activating experiences for you. We recognize that. We noted that in informed consent. That doesn't mean that it shouldn't be a safe environment for you personally at the same time, right? So we want to recognize that there are Title IX officers that we have. Here's some of the stats. These are kind of more for residential, and they tend to be residential undergrad, but it is occurring. But when we talk about these different pieces, recognize that we want to make sure that we are emulating the gospel in our engagement in words and conduct with one another to reflect the brother-sister language of the New Testament as the predominant relationship with which we are called to engage with one another as members of the body of Christ. And so making sure that we are appropriate and effective and engaged with one another in a way that emulates the created image of one another, but also encourages one another towards growth in godliness in this kingdom. Okay, so that's our program. If you haven't scanned this QR code yet to record your attendance, please do. It will ask you a few demographic questions. We use this to record for KCREP some of our demographic information, right? So please take the time to do this and to record each of those pieces. And that's kind of the end of our orientation. Hopefully you're oriented, you know where you are and where you're going. And I will turn off the recording. And if you have no questions, you're free to go. If you have questions, feel free to stay on and you can engage questions or you can interact in the chat with direct messaging to faculty or open questions to everyone.